SEC. Y'all started it with Oklahoma and Texas. They're coming in the conference a year early, which I figured that, I think all the parties around wanted this to move on because I didn't think that Oklahoma and Texas want to stick around for two, what do you want to call it, lame duck years. So with instead of that they're gonna stay for one more year. You guys got the quaffers, you guys got the money to make the Fox Sports whole, Big 12 hole, whatever. So let me just say this, man. We'll ask you this. Oklahoma, Texas, how big of a rude awakening are they in for coming into the conference?
Oh, definitely a rude awakening.
Yeah.
I think sometimes what people miss is that I know they may look at a conference schedule and think, okay, well, you got this team on your schedule, you got this team on your schedule, but I mean, it's the physicality of these games, with you know what? Let me take a step back. I think the biggest thing that I feel like no one's really talking about is how are you going to prepare for? You have to be able to play defense in this conference.
Correct.
You just have to. There's no way around it. And if you can't play defense, you're gonna have a problem. And so if you look at last several years at, even when OU's last coach, he left and went to USC. He did a lot of recruiting and development on the offense side of the ball, but he didn't do anything on defense side of the ball.
Right. And
even when you look at the championship run that Oklahoma made under Stoops, they had a serviceable defense. It wasn't the greatest of defenses, but it was serviceable. These high-powered offenses, I think over the long term, it's hard to, because when you can go out and you can score, in a minute, 2 minutes, you don't leave your defense much time to rest.
And so they're not known for defense in the Big 12 because they don't recruit on the lines, on either lines.
No.
Crazy.
Back during OU's run, they probably had the best, I feel like best in terms of defense, that I felt like was somewhat similar to the SEC defenses, but, I don't know. I mean, I think, I know we played Texas last year in Austin, but I really do think, obviously, what we had last few years from a defensive perspective, from offensive perspective. I mean, we wanted those guys gone a long time ago. But I don't know that. I don't. I think Alabama team from a few years ago would have been, much different than what showed up, on the field. I mean, we can go back to 2009 when it got kickstarted. What we looked like then versus, obviously what we look like now is completely different. But, they were supposed to have these high-powered, when you can run the ball. I mean, basically what they say is, the two things that win games have always won games, and that's run the ball and play defense.
Correct.
You can do those two things, you'll be successful. And I think that's typically what, when you look at some of the, premier schools in the SEC, that's what they do. They run the ball and they can play defense. Even you look at Georgia this year. I mean, Georgia's team the last several years is a throwback to some of those 2010, 2012 teams that Alabama put on the field. We're gonna run it down your throat, and we're gonna, play great defense. So until Oklahoma and Texas put together some teams, put together great defense, I don't think I think they'll struggle.
Yeah, yeah. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see probably not the same mechanism, but similar to what happened to Nebraska when they joined the Big Ten way back. Remember that their recruiting has suffered heavily because of that. Because how you going? I mean, it's going to be different ways. Because in Nebraska's case, it was like, how in the world are you going to convince kids from Texas and Oklahoma, the states that you recruited in heavily, to go ball out in the Big Ten where it's cold and mucky? Whereas in the SEC with Oklahoma, Texas, how are you going to convince kids to hold off Alabama and LSU? And I mean, Alabama and LSU already recruited in the state of Texas, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to recruit even harder. So it's going to be even harder for Texas and Oklahoma. Oklahoma recruits primarily from Texas. So how are they going to get into it? So they're going to, I think the recruiters going to suffer a lot. They're going to get paid. Most schools will get paid handsomely. But they're going to suffer.
Okay, so you talk about getting paid, right? Look at Texas A&M, right?
Yeah.
Look at what they did. They went out and signed that class, and they paid. I mean, they paid top dollar, but I mean, they hadn't produced anything.
Right. And yeah, I know, right? And their toes are really on the line of doing it legally or not. They're just like, look, we're trying to buy shit. We're trying to buy. They're trying to buy a championship, but instead they're buying 7-win seasons.
Yeah, right. 8-4. They've been 8-4 Jimbo. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you saw this a couple weeks ago, but Saban did an interview and he was talking about, a high school coach approached him about a kid, a cornerback, and they wanted, I want to say $800,000, and it's like, I'm not paying you $800,000 for somebody that I have no idea is going to turn out to be anything. Your kid's in high school; he hadn't played a down of college football yet.
Right.
So he showed him the door, and then there was the other one. Here's the other one. As I'm going to say alleged, because this hadn't been proven that it's this particular player, but there was an offensive lineman that they believe they know who it is because the guy ended up transferring to Miami. But he wanted, I think he wanted his girlfriend to get into law school and for Alabama to pay for it. And he wanted some crazy amount of money.
That's crazy. Well, at least he's dating a smart woman. I'll give him that. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. But wow, the audacity of these young cats, right? Hey,
right.
What? This is what it is with the young cats.
Not only to get, to have her, in law school, but for them to pay for it. I was like, these kids,
SEC,
man.
The SEC, it is fan-freaking-tastic. I mean, I grew up in ACC country. I said this a lot. I grew up in ACC country, as you know. I love SEC football. I'm not just saying that because you're on the call with me. I've said that many times. If it came down to the SEC football, now it's about to be exclusive to ESPN now instead of CBS. But
right.
If you give me a choice of SEC football and ACC football, I pick an SEC football 10 times out of 10. If it's not Vanderbilt playing, as Vanderbilt's playing, I won't. But if Vanderbilt's not playing, I'm watching that game. I'm watching other games more so because it's just a bigger brand. It's a better brand of football. It just is what it is. And now I live in Big Ten country. Hell, I watch Ohio State ball. So it's what it is. It's this thing is nowhere from being over, right? No way from being over. But it's fun for us. But sad for folks that like the fans of the Pac-12 is going to be pretty sad.